we want to welcome you to this special presentation about transition. We also want to say happy Juneteenth, our first Juneteenth. So this is pretty exciting. We're here today. And also, in case I forget, happy Father's Day to all of our dads out there for tomorrow. Okay, so we have a short presentation. My kiddo's head's going to come in and out of there. And then we will go ahead and get started, okay? Yep. So today we're here for a Pathways to the Future, Arriving at the Future, so sorry. We also want to remind you to visit our websites. Thespinconference.org is where you're going to find the April and May recording of our Small Bite workshops, Financing the Future and Pathways to the Future. And that's where this one, Arriving at the Future, will be in just a few short weeks. So if you want to record it or watch it again or share it with people in your community and your networks, please feel free to do so. We also want to remind you that we have two websites now. Our original spinhawaii.org site is where you find the parent guide, our resource guide, our calendar of events, our COVID page, and then we have the spinconference.org website, and that's where you're going to find our last October's conference workshops, as well as these spring workshops. And that's where you're going to be able to, this year in October, sign up and watch our live presentations for our SPIN conference. We're excited for that one. Again, we want to thank our SPIN advisors. We couldn't do this without them. Susan and I are a two-person team, and so we really do rely on our community of supports, and that's our SPIN advisors. So thank you so much for being here today. Okay, and for this, I'm going to pass this over to Daintree, one of our SPIN advisors.
Thank you. I'm happy to introduce our speakers today. Michelle Manfredi is a parent, and Renee Manfredi is a self-advocate, a Special Olympic, a Hawaii athlete, and I believe she's like 80 more things. She's just a trooper, man. We have Debbie Kobayakawa. I'm so sorry, I'm working on that. She's a parent with her son, Ian. I have to move. I can't read that, sorry guys, my screen. He's a self-advocate, Special Olympic, a Hawaii athlete, and I know he's also a worker too. He works at Safeway. He's an awesome guy. So excited to have him there. And we have Amanda Kahuanui, parent, and her son, Ikaika Kahuanui. He's a senior at Kalaheo High School. He also produces and does some filming, so we're really excited to have him here as well. So back to you, Amanda.
Super duper. Thanks so much. Okay, wait, please. Oh, Ikaika is sharing, our last name is pronounced what? Ka'ahanui. That's right. That's okay. That's all right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's important.
So give me just a moment here. I'm going to take off my virtual background so that Ikaika doesn't zoom in and out of the screen here. Uh-oh, it looks like I froze. There we go. So you're going to get our messy background for this one just so that Ikaika doesn't come in and out. And we're happy to share our first story here. So making sure we can see the screen. Yep, there we go. So we're going to start off today talking about our transition story. Ikaika is a senior this year at Kalaheo High School. And so we're just going to share a little bit about our transitions and where we are and where we hope to go. So this is our ohana. We're a 3-person family. We live on the windward side. And as I said, Ikaika is a senior, coming up to be a senior. And we wanted to talk a little bit about how transitions happen, right? When we talk about transition in school, it's often talking about high school to adult transition. So generally when you hear that term, how are you doing for transition? How are you preparing for transition? That's what we're talking about. But transitions happen throughout our lives and throughout our children's academic life. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I also wanted to, like this picture, I wanted to share a little bit about it. It's a kahuku. And I like it because the path is going one direction and Ikaika is actually looking in a different direction. And this helps me to think about when I'm projecting his future, when school is thinking about his future, when community programs are thinking about what's good for Ikaika and his future. he might be looking in a different direction, and we really do need to follow his focus and follow his path because this is his journey. We're just really here to help him. So I really like this picture for that. So we're going to start here with our preschool transition. Started when he was 3 years old. We were in an inclusive setting. And Ikaika is an only child, and he was medically fragile. As a little guy, he had a trach and a G-tube. He had a nurse. You can see the person here is our nurse. And that was really overwhelming for him. We remember him sitting in a little chair in the corner and watching all the kids run around. That was a hard transition, but once he sort of figured it out, he was right in there. And then was like, come on, Ikaika, let's go. But he did start at just 2 days a week for half day. We didn't start all at once. We like to remind families that when you've got a preschooler with a disability, you don't have to just jump in 5 days a week full time. You can transition into something a little easier for everyone. And it was pretty good. It was a pretty good transition. And then we actually moved to a second preschool at the deaf school when he turned 4. And that's where his language just really went crazy. When we transitioned into elementary school, we had to choose where he was going to go. The deaf school wanted us to go to a program for deaf, hard of hearing, and the program school wanted us to stay at the deaf school because of what his hearing loss looked like on an audiogram. So to make this decision, this was an important decision. Is he going to have instruction in ASL, or is he going to have instruction in spoken language with signed support? So what we did is we made a grid. We listed on one side all of the things that were really important to us. And then we had our 3 schools, our home school, which was Pope Elementary. We lived in Waimanalo at that time. Our program school, which was Aikahi for the deaf hard of hearing program, and then the deaf school. And we just went down and really tried to find what was important to us. And when we went back to the IEP team meeting, we said, hey, here we go. This is the school, the program that we're choosing, and this is the reason why. And it made it a lot simpler. Now, when Ikaika turned 8, his trach came out, and that was a huge transition for us. We lost our home nursing, our school nursing, and so he had to go to A+ after school. That was a really big adjustment, but he learned a lot of independence skills while there. And then something that happened in 6th grade really changed the course, I think, for Ikaika's academic career and probably after that. And it was his gen ed teacher, Mrs. Pierce. I'm going to call her out because we still are thankful for what she did. She said, why isn't Ikaika in our math class? He'd never been in gen ed math. He's always been pulled out for it. But she really felt that he had the capacity and the capability to do math with his peers. And so we worked together with the IEP team and we got him in there. In his first math test, he got the best score in class that day. So that was really our opportunity to see we could ask more of Ikaika, we could ask more of our team, and it really changed his trajectory into an inclusive setting and less of the pullout and less of the fully self-contained options. Do you remember going to A+, Ikaika?
Yep.
What was that like for you?
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, it was different being around all those kids after school, right? Because normally he would go home. So that was a pretty interesting transition for him. Now, when we moved on to intermediate school, we went to Kailua Intermediate School because they had a great inclusion program there. But it was a change because he had been in elementary, that same elementary, for 8 years, right? He had junior kindergarten, and then sixth grades. So that was a pretty big transition moving into a middle school where they expect a lot more of the students as they're preparing them for high school. So a lot of new expectations socially and academically for Ikaika. Another thing that helped him to transition was going to Boys and Girls Club. They had one on campus at Kailua Intermediate School, and he could just walk right over, but that was a lot different than the A+ program. They had computers, they had gaming, they had kids from elementary, middle, and high school all combined into this one group. How did you feel when you went to Boys and Girls Club?
I like hanging out with others.
You liked hanging out with the other kids?
Yep.
Yeah. That was a fun thing for him to do, and it really helped him to grow his social interactions and to make friends. When Ikaika transitioned into high school, That was a big deal, right? Going into high school from the lower grades. And I remember us sitting at that transition meeting, and the middle school had been with Ikaika for 2 years. They kind of gotten used to him. They knew what his potential could be. And then we had the high school team who only had the IEP to look at. And I remember them saying to us, what do you want for Ikaika? And we said, well, we would like him to graduate with his cohort, or be a fifth or even a sixth year student and graduate from high school. The middle school folks were all nodding their head because they had been with him and seen that potential. But the high school folks at that time, it was just crickets sitting around the table. They didn't know him. All they had was this piece of paper, and they really had to trust and believe us that this was something that we wanted. Luckily for us, that next year when we transitioned to ninth grade, there was a new principal, a new SPED chair, and a new VP, and they all embraced inclusion in how that could work for Ikaika. Something that was different for him is he had to now get to Boys and Girls Club after school. Luckily, it's about a mile and a half from Kalaheo High School, but he had to ride his flicker. And if you don't know what a flicker is, it's a three-wheeled, it has one wheel in the front and two in the back, and you stand on it, and you wiggle your booty, and it makes you go forward. And so what did we do to transition you into riding your flicker? Do you remember?
Yeah, that invited me to first get a club until I could ride myself.
Yeah, we rode with him several times from the high school to Boys and Girls Club on the path so that he could get used to the stop signs, the stop lights, the traffic, and how to be safe there so that he could ride on his own. But we just didn't like, okay, go. It definitely took planning, it took preparation, it took practice. Oh, the three P's, right? Planning, preparation, and practice in order for him to do that successfully. For Ikaika, he is included in all of his classes except for math. Math is the one thing that he still struggles a little bit with, but we've got 2 math classes down, 1 to go to graduate with a diploma. We chose Kalaheo High School as our high school because we live in Kaneohe, so we really had Kailua Castle as our home school and Kalaheo. And we looked at their CTE programs, we looked at their inclusion settings, we looked at a lot of different things. And I did that graph again to see which was the best placement for him that we felt would really move Ikaika from high school to beyond. And we chose Kalaheo because of their broadcast media program for CTE. And remember that Ikaika wants to be a filmmaker. He wants to be a YouTube creator, a content creator. And so that we felt that was the best fit for him. And now he's preparing for his capstone year. We're very proud of him. Last year for COVID, Ikaika spent the whole year doing distance learning with his teachers on Zoom. And actually that was his best academic year he ever had. We're so proud of the work that he did that year. We are ready to go back to school in person to transition. He's fully vaccinated. So we'll see how that looks. How are you feeling about getting back into school for next year?
You mean I'm already vaccinated?
Since you're already vaccinated, right, and you have to go back to school in person.
I'm still thinking.
You're still thinking about it. Still a little nervous because, a year and a half at home. But I think we're going to be okay.
At least I did not lose my mentality.
You did not lose your mentality. You didn't lose your brains, right? They're still sticking there with you. Now, as we talk about IEP support and transitioning to adult life, in grades 9 and 10, we didn't have a lot of IEP support. The transition page basically just had the classes he was taking and the CTE class he was taking, and there was a lot of interest survey time. Although Ikaika has really wanted to be a filmmaker and a movie maker, game maker for a long time, for several years, probably since elementary school. So he hasn't changed in that. But what happened in 11th grade is we got a new transition teacher, and she was able to connect us to DVR and pre-ETS services so that we could start working with him on those soft skills. How to write your resume, how to write a cover letter, how to do an interview, how to do a virtual interview. And so he took classes through DVR. They're subcontracted. We didn't know that they did that, but everybody's got a finite budget and staffing, so they actually subcontracted these trainings out for families to take, for kids to take. So he took one with Abilities Unlimited, he did a Jumpstart class, and he did one with NEI. And NEI is the one that's actually going to hopefully offer him a summer work experience program. He has done a pre employment drug test, he has done a pre employment physical. We've done all the intake paperwork, and now we're just waiting for a job offer, hopefully at Olelo, which would be a really great fit for him. What did you think about your classes that you took with NEI and Jumpstart?
I feel like I need things.
You learn new things. Do you feel more comfortable going into an interview?
I think so.
You think so? I think so too. After watching him, they do mock interviews just to prepare him. You know, it's one thing when we do it at home, it's another thing when somebody else does it. I think that's going to be a really good skill for you to continue to grow. When we think about transition, we often think about what is the school doing? What is the IEP team doing? What is community supports doing for our kiddos? But we also have to remember that we have a responsibility as parents too. So for us, we have been looking for things to sign him up for. We've been lucky. Lilio Kalani Trust had an animation camp 2 years in a row. One was in person and one was virtual last year. And he was able to take those, be with peers who like animation, like filmmaking. We've signed him up for, he did a Hawaii Kids Can film contest and won first place in the high school division for how to vote. And we signed him up through different, varsity tutors, Outschool, different programs to get him a drawing class, how to create your YouTube channel. What's one you just did? Oh, they did production. Remember the production classes you did? And the FX classes on Zoom? Hmm? Remember those classes you just did on Zoom about production?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're taking stuff like that for him to get him exposed to new ideas, meet different people. We have him set up to do his state ID in September. We went online and made the appointment. We are in transition, moving from pediatric doctors to adult doctors. And we're looking for that first experience, that internship, that job, those connections. And also at home, doing the adulting thing. How do you do laundry? How do you make a cheese sandwich? How do you save money and get money out of the bank if you need it? So these are the things that we're working on at home to help prepare him for life after high school. When we look at Ikaika's goals for post high school, we are the pathway that we've set for him and that he set for himself is Windward Community College. They have a creative media certificate program there. I just learned I'm an HGEA employee with the union, and they have free college. You can earn an AA or a BA online for free through your union. So if you are part of HGEA or the AFSCME union, go and find out about free college because that's online, and we feel like Ikaika could take a class or two at home while he's doing the creative media program in person. And then hopefully that will help him get into a 4-year program at West Oahu. In the meantime, we are looking for internships, work experience, classes, and connections. Film industry especially is all about who you know in connections. He will be living with us at home through schooling, but we'll be preparing for him because he can't live at home forever, hopefully, right? And we'll want to get out on his own. And to do that, we need to continue to build relationships and those circles of supports that are going to last beyond us. And we're going to leave you with our final thoughts today. I asked Dad Solo, what do you want for Ikaika after he leaves high school? And he said he wants him to get a job that he likes. He wants him to make friends, and he wants him to be independent. And I think that's what we really want for all of our kids, right? We want them to be as independent as they can. We want them to have friends and family and people around them that love and support them. And he wants them to have a job that makes him happy. Because we spend so much time working, we should have a job that makes us happy. For me, I would like to see him get something that's also consistent, like a union position would help him to stay in and have the protections as well as a person with a disability. When we ask Ikaika what he wants, you want to read what you said?
I want to go to college, get a job, read films, and have friends.
Right. So that really does fall in line with what we all want for him. We want him to have a good job. We We want him to do what he likes and to have friends around him. So we just want him to have a good life that's happy, a good life that's productive. And that's all I think most of us can ask for our kiddos. Okay, so I think I made it through on time. Let me stop my share there.
Thank you so much, Amanda. That was awesome. Do we take questions now? Does anybody have any questions for Amanda or Ikaika?
Or we could wait until after as well.
Oh, Chris has a question, Amanda. Do you want to take it now? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I really appreciate your presentation, Amanda and Ikaika. Good job. My son is almost 15, and so I'm looking at things for him. What do you have in the future for him? Ikaika, where will Ikaika be living? If he wants to live independently, how will you set that up and what's available to him?
Chris, that's a super great question. We're not really sure yet what that's going to look like. My husband's born and raised here, but we don't have any family here. It's just the three of us. So our plan right now is while he's in school, he'll be staying with us. And then what we're hoping for is through those school relationships and things that he makes out in the community, he can find a roommate or he can find a place for him to go. We're not sure if he's going to qualify for government assistance or any other kinds of programs. So we might be looking for these things on our own. But I'm looking for, if he goes to West Oahu, do they have a program there with other students that he could connect with, and live with? So we're going to kind of take it as it goes. But in the meantime, just having him stay home with us so we can support him through the post high school experience. It's a great question, though. It's a hard one to answer, but I'm hoping that our next two presenters can help answer that as well. So let's go ahead and move forward. If you have other questions for us, we're happy to answer, but we'll do that at the end. Thank you, Chris, for that one. And I'm going to put myself on mute and go ahead and share a screen for the Manfredis.
Aloha.
Aloha, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Just.
Let me bring this up. Share screen. Sorry. Hang on. There we go. Screen share. Where did they go? Okay.
I can share your screen for you, Renee.
Are you going to do it? Okay.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Sorry,
Stop sharing. So sorry. Thought that was my instruction. Thanks, Amanda. Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning and aloha.
It's a real privilege to be here today. So I'm Michelle Manfredi.
And I am Renee Manfredi.
And we'd like to tell you a little bit of our journey. And I'm going to turn it over to Renee. Renee is 35 years old. Let me start with a little background. She was diagnosed with pervasive developmental delay, not otherwise specified, which has then been finally moved to the autism spectrum. So Renee, what are you currently doing in life right now?
Well, that's a really good question. As you can see from this picture here, I am a current employee at Special Olympics Hawaii. I am the Athlete Leadership and Healthy Communities Assistant. I am a former Special Olympics Hawaii Board of Director as the athlete representative. I am a health messenger, a Sergeant Shriver International Global Messenger, a Toastmaster, a former member of the DD Council, and a member of the Hawaii Self-Advocacy Advisory Council.
So Renee, I hear you say that you're former a lot. Can you tell me why?
Absolutely. The reason I say former a lot is because my family and I have recently moved from beautiful Hawaii to the Lone Star State of Texas.
And that's where we're joining you from today. Thank you for having us. The next slide, Amanda.
I also forgot to mention, I am a Star Wars fan. As you can see, Qui-Gon Jinn, who's portrayed by my favorite actor, Liam Neeson, is my favorite character. So may the force be with you to all of our Star Wars fans out there.
So Renee, we're a military family. right here. This is where our journey in the military began. Renee is 1 here in this photo, and our other daughter is 3. She was diagnosed with pervasive developmental delay, as I said, at 21 months old, and with autistic behaviors and a learning disability. At the time, that didn't really allow us a lot of opportunity for services.
Today, however, it's not such a mouthful. I am on the autism spectrum and I have a learning disability. That's a lot easier to say, isn't it? Oh, so
we can go to the next.
we can go to the next slide.
Sorry. Okay, Renee, I'm going to turn this over to you because this is your journey.
Thank you very much. So as you can see from this picture here, this is actually a picture taken from my favorite show, Once Upon a Time. So to quote them, once upon a time, I am going to share my story. So my story begins as that Beatles song, The Long and Winding Road, with a lot of twists and turns and ups and downs and potholes, much like the H1. The short story is I got here through faith, support of my family, Special Olympics Hawaii, and SAC. But they gave me more time, so I get to give you a longer version. Next slide, please. My struggles began for me when I was in school. Or rather, that's when my life became difficult. I was mainstreamed my whole life, and I was bullied a lot. The kids weren't exactly receptive or welcoming, and I had plenty of autistic behaviors that involved me quoting Disney movies and talking to myself, which was my way of coping with everything that was going on around me, the schoolwork, the chaos, the fast pace, the urgency to keep up like everybody else. And I also had some teachers that weren't willing to give me the support that I needed. They didn't want to hear that they needed to slow down or make my work easy. Next slide, please. This was my favorite thing to quote. Next slide, please. Oh yes, my sister. This is my sister, Nikki, who's 2 years older than me. And I also have a younger brother who is 10 years younger than me. And my sister was bullied too. Some of the kids would ask her questions like, is your sister retarded or is she stupid? And why is she so weird? Unbeknownst to me, she tried to defend me the best way she knew how, and even now that still makes me sad. Needless to say, I was pretty lonely. I felt alone, isolated, and pretty small compared to my classmates who seemed so much bigger, smarter, and better than I am. Everything that I thought I wasn't.
So when Renee graduated from high school, there were a lot of services that she didn't qualify for. And so that left our family and Renee with creating our own plans. We had to really rethink our lives and what we thought was going to happen. Sometimes you think there's going to be that agency or a plan to help you transition, like Amanda was talking about, the transition out of high school and into the adult world. And that was something that we didn't really have a plan for. So we created our own plan. Sometimes, as you can see here in this photo, it's Renee just taking it easy. But we started to have conversations together. What were her goals? And we began to look at our own personal goals, not the goals someone else was giving us. I began to evaluate what was important to Renee, not just what was important to me. Would she be safe? Could she take a bus? Did she understand money? Renee's goals looked very different, much like the photo that Amanda showed of Akaika. My goals looked one way and Renee's goals looked another. And so we began to focus on small goals and we made a list of other goals that we hoped to achieve one day. One of the goals that, go ahead, Renee. No, that's fine, Amanda, go forward.
As you can see from this picture here, this is what all of those emotions that I kept bottled inside look like. And from this point of view, it's not very pretty.
So one of the opportunities that circled back around in our life as we were searching for what could Renee do, things that she could do independently, we came back around to Special Olympics.
And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't really keen on the idea. Reason being is because I'm not real fond of sports. I'm not good at them. I'm not what most people would refer to as talented. And I would often get scoldings or made fun of by my fellow classmates because, due to my learning disability, I didn't always understand the instructions, and that didn't make it any fun for me. But my mom, in her wisdom, said, "What have we got to lose? If we don't like it, we don't ever have to go again." And I can honestly say, I do not regret making that decision. The moment I stepped through those doors, it was like walking through a door into a world full of possibility and opportunity. I was welcomed and accepted just as I was. There was no high expectations to be better, faster, smarter. There was just the acceptance, and it just felt like I could finally breathe. I could hold my head up and take a look at the world around me and not feel rushed. I felt, for the first time in my life, okay with being different. I'd never had that before.
And then
And
did it stop there for you?
But no, absolutely not. That was only the beginning. The next door led me to public speaking. Special Olympics Hawaii invited me to attend their global messenger training, or their program, I'm sorry. And there again, I was scared and questions were going through my head. Well, what would I say? Who would care? And would this be like school all over again? Once again, my mom said, "What have we got to lose? If we don't like it, we don't ever have to go again." And here I'm going to repeat myself. I have not regretted that. I learned not only what public speaking is, but skills that I never knew existed. I found my voice. I learned that speaking is something that I'm good at. And for the first time in my life, I could actually express what I was feeling, not through movie quotes, but actually the way I'm speaking to you now. But that didn't stop there. Oh no. The next door led me to the Hawaii Self-Advocacy Advisory Council. The next door led me to the Hawaii Self-Advocacy Advisory Council. And maybe you were like me. Maybe you don't know what self-advocacy is. I know I didn't. But I learned that advocacy is speaking up for something important. Self-advocacy means that you are speaking up for the things that are important to you. Major, big things like your rights, getting a job, going to school. And then, of course, there are some things that maybe like how much toothpaste you want to use. Now, you can laugh. I love to use a lot of toothpaste because it gets rid of that bad morning breath. But these were just things that I learned along the way. I actually discovered that I find that advocating for others is so much easier than speaking up for myself, which is an area I'm still working on. I feel that I am speaking up on behalf of others who have not found their voices yet. And it just continues on. That's the thing about life. You are always learning, no matter how old you are, it never ends. And I feel the need to share my story because I want to make a difference in the lives of individuals with IDD. I don't want them to have to go through the same struggles that I or my family went through. I hope that I have learned to have more faith and more confidence. And I'm hoping that our story can help reach another family who may be feeling what we were feeling. And this picture is important to me. It's one of my favorites. This is one of my fellow SSIGMs. His name is Nyasha Daria. He is from Zimbabwe, Africa. And this picture is a powerful reminder of just how far I've come. And to be honest, I never knew this would be me. I never even considered it. Mom, do you want to have anything more to add?
Oh, Amanda, can you go back to that photo just a little bit? So for me personally, I love this photo because it always reminds me that we're in a place I never expected. In my journey as Renee's guardian, parent, teacher, all of the hats that we all end up wearing, hats that for me personally, I didn't always know how to wear, and I am still learning to wear as we help Renee navigate life. You want to have a lot of faith in things. We have faith in God, and I felt I was looking towards programs or agencies. What would be the next answers for Renee? I reached out a lot. I wrote our story to people. We would get basically rejection letters, oh, she can't come to our school. We don't know how to do autism. You can't, we're not equipped for this. Oh, she's been out of school too long. Oh, there was always some reason. And in my journey to try to find what was next for all of us, not just Renee, I think I often overlooked Renee and what was important to Renee, what Renee brought to the table. And I keep this picture where I can see it because it reminds me that everyone has something they bring to the table. Maybe we're not listening enough. Maybe I wasn't listening enough. Maybe I didn't see it in a certain way. But it makes me always think that our children are our unexpected voices. And how can we support them in their journeys?
Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you.
That was fantastic, guys. Thank you. We can take one question if we have one, and then we'll move on to Debbie and Ian.
I have one from the chat box asking to Michelle, so many educational goals for transition include the concept of independence, excuse me. Has your journey with Renee, which has been possible by the two of you depending on each other, interdependence, changed your expectation of independence at all? That was a mouthful. Did you need me to repeat it?
It's a question, not just a statement.
Yes. Just asking, like everyone expects, to push your adult children to independence.
Okay, so I have a thought on that, and my thought is formulated totally from our journey, our life. This may not be anybody else's thoughts. I think the notion of independence can often be skewed in that when we used to sit in things and help Renee be independent, and Renee would hear, I need to be independent. A person can walk away feeling like, gosh, they sure have to know all the answers all by themselves. But in reality, no one has all the answers all by themselves. We are all interdependent on everybody we know. Everyone has a community of support, from your person who repairs your car to the person who helps you at the grocery store, to your husband or your friends. We all are interdependent, and we're not actually silos by ourselves. And I began to look at Renee's life and some of the things that are missing for Renee. Renee doesn't have a husband that she can call when the internet doesn't work on her computer. And she doesn't have, a variety of people in her life. And so how do we put those people there, and who are they? Because they won't have the face that I have in my circle of support. And so it made me review the word independence in a completely different way. Because I think in life, we depend on each other. And so how can we do that in a healthy way? Because we're all doing it. The rest of us are doing it all day long. And why should it be any different for Renee or anybody else? We all need support and help. I hope that answered that question.
Yes, thank you. And we have more questions for Renee, but we'll wait till after the final presentation. Thank you
Get
so
to
much.
the end.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, yes, and we will keep collecting those questions, so please keep putting them in the chat, and we will get to them at the end. But next, we would like to introduce Debbie and Ian are going to share their story and talk story. And Deb, you guys are going to talk a little bit, and then I'm going to share your video. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I'll let you know when to start that.
You go, girl.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Debbie Kobayakawa, and this is my son. I'll let him introduce himself.
My name is Ian Nicholas.
How old are you, Ian?
31.
So he's 31. He has a brother that is the same age as Renee. So his older brother, Josh. How old is Josh?
35.
Yes. And your brother's married, isn't he? And has some kids. Yeah.
Yes.
So Ian has, it's really nice because I feel like all three of us have very different stories, yet we're on the same journey, but on different pathways. And I really kind of want to piggyback on what Michelle just said. Independence looks different for everybody. You're going to see a film and after we're done speaking that was done 7 years ago in 2014. And Ian does not live with us. He lives independently from us. However, he depends on us for many things. And he is also someone that other people can depend on, right, Ian?
Yes.
Who depends on you where you live?
My partner.
Who do you help in your home?
My caregiver and 2 housemates.
Yeah. And then can you tell them where you work?
Only Safeway.
And do you help people when you're there?
Yes.
So Ian is a person with a lot of independence who still is dependent on those in his circle to help him make everything in his life work. We're very proud of him for working. It's 11 years this month. He was hired straight out of high school. And in the film, we'll talk a little bit about what that looked like. He did job train for 18 months through his IEP at the local Safeway. We were lucky that we live in Kaneohe and he went to Castle High School. And so he was able to take the city bus from school. Who did you go to Safeway with when you were learning how to have your job?
Mr. K, my skills trainer.
His skills trainer, because the team decided that based on his transition goals and outcomes for post-high school. Ian did exit school at age 20 because since then the law has changed. So at 20, he left the Department of Education. He was eligible to stay, his birthday's in April, and he was eligible to stay through the end of the school year and he qualified for extended school year. So his services ended, and parents, I know you can identify with this, on July 15th, 2010, because we remember stuff like that. He was hired by Safeway on June 25th, 2010. And I remember that date because it was also my parents' wedding anniversary. So we're going to show you the film. I do want to share that the film looks very professional because it was a joint collaboration between one of the agencies that Ian is able to access, and at that time was getting services from, called Abilities Unlimited. They are a Medicaid waiver provider. And they try to, like a little, they called it International Film Festival, highlighting different individuals with disabilities throughout the state as a way for fundraising. So the film was actually made and created by a University of Hawaii at Manoa film student. And now she graduated, and Ian and her have actually maintained contact, right, Ian? Do you call Miss Grace?
Yes.
And he even went to Disneyland about 5 or 6 years ago, not with us, because he travels independently with other people and friends, and they connected and had lunch together. So it's really, for me, it's amazing to see him continue to maintain relationships with people who he's had very positive interactions with. And that, we all think of autism, and that is one of Ian's diagnoses. Oh, is they're not social? Well, I'm pretty sure you could see from Renee's presentation that she's very social and a very good speaker, and Ian's very social, right? And your friends are important to you?
Yep.
Okay. So without further ado, I'll let I'll let Amanda show this, and it's about 10 minutes.
We're done.
Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Mom, I'm funny. Go, Shepard driver. Yeah, get away. Uh-oh. My name is Ian Nicholas, and I live in a group home with Liz, Charles, and Brett. I have a job at Safeway. I like it, and it's good. I bag the groceries, I help people out to the car, and I'm a good courtesy clerk, and I like my job. April 12, 1990. I'll be 24 my birthday.
What's that? Stop! Diron, let's go!
My name's Debbie Kobayakawa, and I'm Ian's mother, and I'm also his legal guardian. Ian is a young man diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. So on the spectrum, he's moderate, and he also has intellectual disability, and then he's also legally blind. And during a routine eye exam, they discovered that his pupil on one of his eyes wasn't round, and it was off center. So we never noticed that. The doctor told me that he was what they call an FLK, funny looking kid, which was kind of a harsh thing to tell somebody. The doctor told me that in her office and then called me back. She gathered some more information and told me that something was significantly wrong with him. And the hardest part for me was that I knew deep down inside, I knew she was right. So it wasn't until he was 8 years old that he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder.
I was sent to recruit you for an important mission. The fate of the entire Earth is at stake. We need your help.
It was very difficult when we first started on this journey, and his dad opted to not be a part of that, and so he left our family, and that was really hard. He was very, very difficult. You wouldn't know it now when you see him. He was extremely impulsive. So we started doing a lot of work with a psychiatrist and exploring different behavioral management strategies to use at home. We explored medication. We got a lot of help when they were young.
As a little boy, I was in elementary school. I was at Kamuki Colony High School, Kaiser High School. I used to go swimming when I was in Kaiser High School, but I was swimming where I can run now, fast. I got a gold medal, a bronze, and silver medal in the ribbon. Things got better as he got older. I got married again with his stepdad, and that's the piece I think that really helped us get to where we are now. He was 13 when I met my husband and 15 when we got married. You know, by 15 years of doing this, you're pretty burned out. Try to take care of everything for him, but yet let him take care of himself now. I live in my Pahu, Puma Circle, and I like it there. Brent, Charles, and my roommates, they each have their own room. I got my own room too. Transform Bumblebee. My skills when they gave it to me, I got for my first birthday. And I clean my mouthwash and toothpick. And I'm good.
Ian.
Yes, Brett?
Go to my room. All the way down by room 3.
Okay, Brett. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Brett. He's my roommate. What else did I do? Wes, Eric, Cole.
Yeah, my name is Rodney Kobayakawa. I'm the stepdad for Ian Needless. I think the biggest victory I ever had was having him move out on his own and not be stuck with us and be clinging, onto us. He is independent now. He lives in his own group home. He calls and arranges for his own transportation. He works. We're not going to live forever, so when we're gone, at least he can continue doing what he does now and be independent.
I want to see my brother again. Hoping he comes back for his birthday, and I'm going to see him very soon. I miss him. He's my good brother. His name is Josh, my brother. It's a girlfriend named Erica. Erica is Josh's girlfriend.
It's real good.
He's like, dude, you choked me, I'll choke you back.
Ian's relationship with his brother is great. I mean, they are brothers, so he's really lucky that he has a brother who has such a big heart.
Want a bite of the carrot cake?
No, I want some ice cream. Thank you. He's in North Dakota. Looking at his job over there. I talked to him. I miss him. And he's a good brother.
He wants to be like his brother. I think that was the biggest inspiration. He wants to be like Josh. He wants to live on his own. He wants to have a job. He wants to have a girlfriend. But I think all along he's wanted his autonomy to be his own person. So I really think that comes intrinsically from deep down inside of him. I think he thinks he's pretty cool because he's an adult, lives in his own place.
Oh yeah.
Hang on! Cole, hold on! Are you okay? Great. Let's go! Thank you, Rangers.
I go to karate every time I go every Monday. I book a board and I punch and kick and I do a lot of kicking and stuff. Clean the house, I clean the bathroom, do my laundry, and I clean the dishes. I clear the dish rack. I count the city bus and the handy van. I trip out or go to work. I check my schedule every Friday, every time I check in to get my paycheck. My schedule, my paycheck, and take out money. I bag the groceries for the customers. I'm a good courtesy clerk.
Ian is a very hardworking and courageous person. He goes out there every day in the real world with all of us. He does have certain limitations, especially in his intellectual capacity, and he goes out there and functions in that real world every day with all of us, and I really think he's an amazing person for that.
They won the first battle. Excellent, Rangers. Goodbye. That was so cool. I want to be just like them.
Morphin time! Tyrannosaurus! Mighty Morphin power!
Morphin time.
Are you excited?
Yeah, fun surprise.
Don't open them until I tell you to, okay?
I'm opening them.
Okay, don't peek. No peeking. Don't
Now?
open them yet.
Woo!
Great.
What's this? Do and be who you want to be. Your friend Grace. Thank you. Ouch. Hey! A red Power Ranger shirt. Thank you. Wow, thanks guys. Where'd you get this? And look, it's a morpher. On the belt you wear. I like it. Ooh, that was cool. Thanks, Mom.
Thank you, Amanda.
She liked it.
So just, I'm going to assume everybody can see me. I'm still on the gallery view, but let me know if you need anything changed. Just watching that whole film again for me right now, it actually made me cry a little bit because Ian's just come so far. I never would have thought when he was 5 years old that this would be his outcomes. The one thing I think most grateful for in this whole journey is that nobody ever told me what he was not going to do. And I really wish that was the case for everyone who has a child with special needs. At the time, I never would have imagined he would be working for as long as he's been able to work. How old were you when you moved out into your group home, Ian? Do you remember?
21.
He was 21 when he moved out. He does live in a licensed, they call it a domiciliary home. It is through the ARC of Hawaii. We've been very, very blessed that first placement in the first home has been a great fit for him. It has the same caregiver. They've been living together. She's been living with Ian for 10 years, so a third of his life. And we just feel that it's a great place for him. I will admit, the first time we drove to see the house, I was freaking out, right? I mean, it is in Waipahu, right? So the street, 2 cars cannot go down the street at the same time. There's a lot of very colorful paint and ornate fencing, shall we say, around, but it's just a neighborhood. It's a very residential neighborhood and very multi-generational. So for them living in the it's called Waipahu A and B, so it's actually technically, I guess that's a duplex. It's a great fit for that community. Do you like living where you live?
Yes.
Yeah. And Ian has transferred. He originally started at Kaneohe Bay Safeway because close to home and school. And he worked there. Do you remember how many years you worked there? And then he transferred. Now where do you work?
Fuller Safeway.
So he transferred downtown because it was taking him an enormous amount of time to get here on the city bus. So he would have to go from Waipahu downtown and transfer. So it wasn't too bad on weekdays, but on the weekends, sometimes it would take him over 3 hours to get here on a Sunday because the transfers.
Yes.
So I kind of had to look at that and say to myself, why are we keeping him at this Safeway, right? Because it really was keeping us connected to him and keeping him close to us. And so for me, part of the biggest part of transition, besides all the planning and IEPs and agencies and teams and all that, is really learning. I've had to learn to let go. And I've also had to learn to be okay with if something doesn't work or if he fails at something. Because like for me, you know, I've done lots of things wrong. I've failed at many things, but it got me one step closer to the things I was good at and being successful. And I think as parents, we're so in protective mode of our kids, no matter what kind of challenges they might have, that it's hard to let go of that and just let them be. Where are you going to work next, Ian?
Well, I can only take my close to my home.
So now, you know, he's 31. I'm not going to say how old I am, but it's fair to say I'm a little older than him. We are looking at sustainability. So we are looking at, as my husband and I approach another decade of life here, having him live and work and recreate close to where he lives, because his community is Leeward. We are originally from the Big Island and we lived there for 11 years. And I chose to bring my family here 20 years ago because they didn't see what kind of a life Ian would have had on the Big Island. And even though we have friends who live there and they have special needs, I was a special ed teacher. Those kids are now adults. It wasn't the life that we saw for ourselves. And even my older son, who also had some learning challenges, he did have an IEP through high school. So it was a great choice for us. But we really see it as sustainable. His brother lives in California, is not married to the young lady in the video, although she was a lovely person. He's married 2 years ago. He has 3 small children. The oldest is 8. Yes, they're on pictures all over the office. And he's got a life over there. And do you want to live in California, Ian? No.
I want to go visit everybody.
He likes to visit. He likes to see them. He's a total vacation guy. But living there, we just feel he could never have the independence and the freedom there because there's just not the safety and the community, right? We have a wonderful, and Renee and Michelle, I know you miss it already, but that's one of the beautiful things about living here, right? Is that Ohana feeling that we all kind of know each other, right? If you ride the certain city bus so many times a week, you're going to know the driver, right? I'm out in the community with you and we see handyman drivers, bus drivers all the time that know him by name. And that brings me a lot of comfort because at the end of the day, that's what I also enjoy about living here, right? The network you build, the people you know. So he will be transferring as soon as there's an opening. There's a beautiful new Safeway up in Waikele. And it's also a really nice shopping center where he can be more independent now, living also in a post-COVID world, right? That's another thing that's been a change. So he can have more freedom to cruise around before work, go grab lunch, those kinds of things. So it's working really well for him. I think there's a really powerful statement in the film that my husband came up with, and it's really true, is that being stuck with us, right? Now, lots of folks want to live with their parents, and that's fine. That wasn't really my kids. I don't know what that says about me, but I was a single mom. I did the best I could. They didn't have, they had a non-participatory biological father, so they didn't like go to his house on weekends and things like that. So it was all on me. I was really lucky to have a great network of friends, a circle of support. My parents were both alive. They were a huge part of your lives, right?
Yes.
So, but yeah, he's his own person. Tell them some of the places you've traveled to without me.
Oregon, California, and Lincoln.
Where else?
Big on.
Vegas.
Vegas, yes.
Yes. Ian's even gone to Las Vegas. He did go. It was his housemate Charles, who you saw briefly in the film. His 60th birthday was a couple of years ago, and he really wanted to go to Las Vegas. So the care home manager asked, because she knows Ian has vacation and he has, money because he works. And so him and Charles got a room, and she had the room adjacent. Did you guys have a great time?
Yep, but then Charles forgot to book it. What happened?
Charles, his roommate, he's trying to say, fell and broke his hip right after that trip, maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
And when he got out of rehab, because he is, 60-ish, he was transitioned to a different group home.
Yep.
Do you stay in touch with Charles?
Yep.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And then as programs are starting to open back up, we're also looking at, because Ian does receive case management from Developmental Disabilities Division. And he also had Department of Vocational Rehab Services in high school. That's part of what helped him get his job. But now he really relies on what we call Medicaid and Medicaid waiver services. He's waiting for a program to open up. He's going to try a new program that's based down in Waianae.
Yes.
Something different. He'd attended the same adult day health program, is what they
Correct.
call it, since high school. And we thought this was kind of a great natural transition now that everything kind of stopped, and looking at just a different program, meeting new friends, but it's also located more on his side of the island. So this way, as he gets older, his community is where he lives, works, and recreates. So
yes.
Is there anything else you want to share with everybody?
No, thank you.
Do you have a good life?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you okay with me being your guardian?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Dad.
Yes, that's right. So we are his legal guardians. And as he's getting older and older, I've tried really hard to always let his voice be heard. I think I'm better at that now than I probably was initially. Do you vote, Ian?
Sometimes I do.
Yeah. So a lot of times people ask if, if someone like Ian has a guardian, can he vote? Absolutely. He does not like me to go, he doesn't like me to go vote with him at all. We changed his polling station because originally it was here. And he prefers to have the folks that are supposed to be there to assist people with disabilities when they vote. He prefers that they go in the booth with him, not me. So, which I thought was pretty cool. And now their whole house votes. So they make it kind of a big thing in their house. They go really early and they vote. So yeah, we're always looking at what the next step will be for Ian. Would he be able to maybe live in his own apartment? If that day comes and we feel we're ready. He really enjoys though living in the group setting because of his housemates. Yeah.
Yes.
Where were you for your 30th birthday? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
When you turned 30.
Oh, I came to your house.
No, you couldn't see me.
Oh.
You were in lockdown, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I really learned
Sorry.
what a safe environment he is because of the pandemic. That was total lockdown. So Ian took 8 weeks off from work. He had enough paid leave by being creative management, right? With, paid leave, vacation leave, sick leave, and they were locked down. I couldn't see him for 11 weeks. And that was to keep their home safe and everyone in the home. And that turned out, and they had a pretty fantastic time for 4 people being in lockdown together 24/7. So
Yes.
do you remember some of the things you did?
Yes.
How about karaoke night?
Yes.
And they had the infamous Waipahu drive-in
Yes.
with the projection theater, whatever, on the side of the house, while they all sat in the giant inflatable waiting pool.
Yes.
Chilling out, watching movies at night. So yeah. So, okay, are you done?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been, it's always a challenge. He had a relatively smooth transition out of the Department of Education and into adult life. Adult life is different. And we have to do things a little differently. Employers, I don't call his boss, right? He has someone, an employment specialist who helps with that, because it's really weird to have somebody's mom, Mrs. Ian's mom, calling in and talking to his boss. He's able, can you request your own day off now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, how do you do it?
When I call them.
Or what else do you do?
Write them a note.
Write them a note.
Yes.
That's right. So Ian took a day off today to be here with us. So yeah, a paid day off, I think, right? Did you put in? Yeah, for leave. So
Yes.
yeah, he's got a really dynamic, productive life. And like Amanda said, we all want our kids, right, to be happy, to be productive, to have friends, and to be loved. And I think that Ian's been able to achieve that with us supporting him along the way.
Yes.
So I really just encourage all of you parents out there, set the bar high. You might not know, I didn't know when he was 16, where we were going to be, but we did have goals. Aim high, have your targets, and your information will tell you along the way, right? Your information will tell you if by the time they're going to leave school, whether it's with a diploma or whether they age out or whatever you decide, if they're ready or not. If they're not, then look into what supports are available and what those next steps would be. But I guess my biggest advice would be to not live out of fear, to not be afraid, to work together and to rely on yourself as your child's, not only their best advocate, but we know our kids best. The professionals know their areas of expertise, but I would argue that nobody's going to know my son better than our family members, right? Myself, his brother, and our circle of support, which now, since I've remarried, he has 4 stepsisters. We have one here right with us today. And being around a 5-year-old and having Ian in the same house just takes me back to when he was her age. That's why I was crying a little bit when we viewed the film, because I remember what that was like, and I just never could have imagined it. So have your hopes and dreams. Never let anybody tell you what your kid can't do. You'll know when it's not within their grasp, and that's okay. We all have things we're good at, like Renee said, and we all have things that we struggle with, or maybe we're just not going to master, and that's okay. But be the best person you can be.
Yes.
Can you say goodbye, everybody?
Goodbye.
Thank you for having us today.
Thank you for having us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie and Ian.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your story, Debbie and Ian, Renee and Michelle, and for Ikaika as well. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us. We really appreciate it. I learned so much from hearing from other families, and really parent-to-parent support connections are really what has helped me through our journey. It's the professionals are wonderful, and I rely on that professionalism, but it's the parents who have gone through the journey before us that really teaches me how I can be a better parent. So thank you for sharing your stories today. We want to turn it over to Jackie right now for questions in the chat, and the 3 of us will be here to answer best we can. And don't forget to stick around, because we do have those 2 gift cards to give out at 11:25.
Okay, first question is for wanting to know, how did Ian find his group home?
So Ian would like to excuse himself. He's dying to go play with his 5-year-old niece who lives in Oregon. So can you just say goodbye?
Goodbye.
And you can go ahead and go.
Love you.
I think he wants more food too.
I know. Trying at 12:30.
Yeah, go. So because Ian has case management with developmental disabilities, we got case management when he was 12. And so I knew, I kind of always knew, and I don't know how I knew it, but he knew too. So we put him on a wait list for an opening, because there's only so many homes and there's only so many literally beds or bedrooms, right? So he was waitlisted at age 15. The first opening, we were called about a year and a half later. He was a little over 16. And of course, he was too young. They called again with another opening. He was 18, but he was still in school and he wasn't ready. And then when he was 21, we got a call. And my husband and I were getting ready to go on a trip. We were going out of the country. We were going to Canada and all up into, national parks. We weren't going to be, available by cell phone. And of course, we get a call, right? So my immediate reaction was just to hang up, but I did not. And then we went and looked at it. And then I tried, every excuse in the book. No, it's not going to work. And he was like, and I think you said this, Renee, about your mom. He said, let's give it a try. The worst thing that'll happen is it won't work out and we'll bring him back home. And so, of course, the first time we took him, he didn't want to do it. Nope. Because what he didn't want was a change. Second time we went over, we had a new Transformer poster that mom had got. I think I want to say at a Blockbuster or something. And he ate dinner, steak and rice, hung that poster up. He was ready to go, move out, done. And that's how it started. But I will say this. People always ask me, was it hard to move him out? No, it was easy to put his stuff in the truck, put it all in, take it all out. But one of the hardest things I've ever done as his mother was get in that car and drive away. And I cried all the way home. But it's the best thing I ever did for him. I am what you call the world's biggest inadvertent prompt or cue. I walk in the room and he is rendered, don't know what to do. I can't make a decision. And that's our dynamic. So I know it's best. And I know because he's thriving and flourishing. But yeah, you start out on a wait list.
One more question. How does Ian support himself financially?
So great question. Well, he works. He does receive SSI, what they call entitlement benefit. He got that when he turned 18. Then he started working. He got a small amount living at home with us. When we signed the paperwork for him to move out, they move up to what they call, I think it's the next level of care, and Daintree's more familiar with this. It's basically, you have to check a box that says you're agreeing to an institutional level of care. And that was one of the hardest boxes I've ever had to check. But I also know, because I've made myself drive up to Waimano home, I know the institution doesn't exist. But I'm one of those people, I actually had to go see the weeds growing through the buildings. So when you work after 25 months, they automatically apply you for Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI. So he gets SSI, which isn't much, doesn't need it, SSDI, the bulk of that, and then he's expected to cost share. You do have to report wages to Social Security. You do have to let Department of Human Services, the folks at MedQuest and Social Security Administration access his bank accounts and check the balances. I have to report his wages every single month, gross wages. And then his benefit amount from SSI is based on that. And that's how. So he is very proud of the fact that he earns his own money. And just this year, we took him off of our cell phone plan. He has his own AT&T cell phone account, and he goes and pays his bill proudly every month in cash. Ian isn't great at money management. He doesn't have doesn't understand a lot of higher math concepts, particularly face value, but he is very capable of going and taking cash out of the bank and going to pay his bill. And so he's as self-sufficient as he can be right now, economically.
Thank you.
Okay.
I do have a question for the moms, Amanda and Michelle. What do you wish you had learned sooner? And even for Debbie, if you want to jump in, this is a journey that you're on with your children. What do you wish, that you had learned sooner or had trusted them to do sooner?
I think I'm going to jump in. Oh, sorry, Amanda. Something that Debbie said, it's okay to not have an answer. It's okay that the answer doesn't work. And I think I probably didn't feel always okay with what's next and exploring this or this. And that if Renee isn't successful at something, or if that wasn't the thing, right, it's not a good fit right now, to go, okay, that's not it. And sometimes for us, it's not a good fit ever, right? Or it's not a good fit right now. It's not, and that never say never. Like, gosh, just never say never. and you don't have to have all of the answers at one time. I wanted all of the answers at one time, but that was a refining in me. I don't need to have them all. Nobody needed to have them all. One day at a time.
And I'll say for us, I think, inclusion really has mattered to Ikaika, as we are planning for him to try and get a job or some kind of work experience. It helped me to reflect that every time Ikaika has been included in school, in his community, in anything, he has done better. He's thrived, he's learned new skills, he's learned how to be part of the community around him when he's included in it. So I think for us, just being included more earlier would be something I would go back and tell my earlier self. It did make a difference.
Thank you. Is Akaika still with us?
He is. He's behind me.
Okay. We did have a question about this past year and a half due to the pandemic and having to be home. Has it changed your plans for the future at all?
Has being home in the pandemic changed your plans to want to be a filmmaker? No. What did you just do recently? Open a Twitter account. He opened his first Twitter account. Yep. He's on social media with Twitter and also with YouTube. He has his own YouTube channel. So he's just starting to put videos that he's created on his YouTube channel. I couldn't find my Twitter account. Just type in the name Ikaika. Yep. So if you want to find him on Twitter or YouTube, you can type in his name, Ikaika Ka'ahanui. On YouTube, it's Blackblade. Oh, on YouTube, it's Blackblade. That's his name on Twitter. My username, not the actual. Oh, that's okay. What's a rule? It's an output of real name. It's okay. In the internet. Okay, it's all right. And he's super excited right now because some of the drawings that he did during pandemic time, he posted on his Twitter page, and he's like doing fan art, and those folks actually are retweeting his drawings that he did of them. So that's pretty exciting, and it's kept him motivated to want to keep doing the same thing.
Thank you. I also have a question for you, Amanda. Have you thought about how you can continue to advocate for Akaika once he goes to college?
Yeah, that's a tough one because, they're their own kid when they're in college. They don't want to talk to parents anymore. They want to talk to the students. So I think just continuing the advocacy skills with him and for him. We'll use this last year of high school and anytime that we're out into the community, just helping him to find that voice. Like Renee was saying, it does take time and it takes experience. It takes kind of getting out there. So yeah, we're going to use as much opportunities as we can for services that are already there. UH has some great services to help prepare students and plan, and we'll connect to the disability studies program at the universities and the community college so that he can go in and self-identify and get the supports he needs. But it's really just helping him find that voice, helping him learn how to advocate and ask for what he needs, and sharing his story. I think that's also something I might go back to my earlier self and say, help Ikaika to understand how to share his story. How does he tell somebody in the elevator spiel about his disability and what kinds of supports or help he needs in order to be successful in his environment? So yeah, we'll just keep going, and we'll be learning, and we'll be working on spin workshops so that I can also benefit from some of the knowledge from our wider community.
But also, how do you continue to make sure that you have a voice in your child's plans as after they turn 18? Because a lot of systems see them as adults.
Deb and Michelle, do you want to share how? Because you guys, Debbie, I know you have a guardianship for Ian, so that helped you to be able to speak up for him. And Renee, did you want to share a little bit too? Ikaika's 17 and a half, so we're not quite there yet. But I'm hoping for us that, again, we help him know how to use his voice. And if he doesn't know how, for him to come back and have a system of support to ask, how do I? And then he can go forward with that.
I too am Renee's, Mark, my husband and I are Renee's guardian right now. We're hoping for the supported decision-making, the strength of that, I think is such a great idea because I think that's such a great fit for Renee. But our older daughter, crossed that bridge of, bless you, of, like she turned 18 while she was in college, and suddenly the finance office wouldn't let me know anything, right? Even though I was the one paying the finance, I couldn't know anything. So there are forms to sign, your doctor, whatever where you're authorized. So Renee authorized me to know some things. We had that in place. I think the community of support, some of that wasn't as necessary, but we didn't get guardianship until 26. Guardianship changes from state to state, and as a military family being in Hawaii, we kept thinking we would be moving, and that was 16 years ago. And so, we didn't rush to do it, and I didn't know how that would impact her. You hear negative impact, you hear positive impact, and so we were cautious about it. But at some point, it becomes clear you are helping this individual make decisions and health decisions at the doctor or financial decisions. So we did do that. Now that we've moved, I don't know what, we haven't explored here yet. How will that look like? What will we do here? But those are the things that we did and how do you feel about me knowing your business?
I actually feel better knowing my parents have my information, and if there's something I need to do, my mom is always there for me. She is like my ultimate advocate whenever the person is pummeling me with questions that I may or may not be able to answer. She's usually the person I turn to, and so yeah, I feel good about it.
One of our interesting struggles is sometimes Renee, people don't always recognize Renee's disability, and that puts her in a position where even when she asks for their help, they will argue with her on why she may not need it. And when she has help, understanding the language, receptive language is a real, that's where we get totally tripped up. And the faster you talk, the faster you ask her questions at the bank or the post office, the more lost she gets. And so, I usually stand at the back, see how the transaction's going. And if it's going well, that's great. And if it's not, she reaches out, and asks for some support there. So that's for right now. I am that role, but like Debbie said, you're not going to be this person forever. This is not a forever, we're not at the end of the goal here for life. We're, sort of unfolding before us, and we will now review the opportunities before Renee in our new state and how that looks.
And we check in with Ian. Ian's fine with me being his guardian. And so how we do it, we had the custodial accounts opened, but actually before the guardianship. We got guardianship when he was 18. I do want to make sure that folks know, if your kid's still in the DOE and turns 18, you do not have to get a guardianship in order to become your child's educational representative. That's a whole nother workshop. Spin's got it down, but don't let anybody tell you that. Guardianship is an extremely personal decision. No professional should tell you what to do in that matter. It's a family decision based on what you feel is the best choice. If I ever felt that having guardianship of Ian was restrictive, we would go to court and remove it. But it was important when he turned 18 that his biological father not be a guardian or have access, because he hasn't been on the same page. He hasn't been part of his life. He doesn't know anything about him, really. I mean, he knows who he is, but his point of view is one day he's going to wake up and snap out of it. Okay, well, 30 years later, here we are, and we're fine. But I think it's in his best interest, and it works for us right now. I handle his bank. His paycheck is actually, because the human resources at Safeway has a copy of our guardianship, it goes into my bank account, and then there's an automatic transfer set on the date, midnight the night before Thursday, because Thursday's payday for him. Every Thursday he goes to the bank and gets his money. When he needs to pay his AT&T bill, right, he makes sure to let me know, and I transfer the funds in there. He also keeps a small amount of cash at hand at where he lives. So $10 out of every paycheck once a week goes into, we call it the, I'm from very northern rural California. It is our hillbilly bank account. So that because he's paid taxes and we've reported the wages, but he can't have over a certain amount of money in the bank. This way there's always cash on hand for he's gonna maybe go out with someone and grab a bite to eat and pay his own way, or go get a haircut, or we travel sometimes. If we go to Japan, I'm not going to get an international phone plan so Ian can call me and tell me what he had for lunch. No. So those kinds of things. And for now, those things work. We have had to make some medical decisions for him. He had a very bad side effect of long-term use of a medication that happened last year. And so that was comforting for me to know I could go out and find the professionals we needed. But he's gone to all the appointments, and at the last appointment, because only one person's allowed in with him due to COVID, he chose his care home manager instead of me going in to get a series of Botox injections. So that tells me he's very comfortable, right? And he knows I'm his guardian. Sometimes he'll even introduce, she's my guardian. I'm like, what? I'm your mother. But so I think it's funny in a way. But I always ask him, I always check in. I want to make sure. I never want him to feel like he can't be who he is. I let his voice be heard, unless it's going to be harmful to him physically. And then it's mainly the financial piece. Someone could easily trick him out of money, coerce him out of money. And he works really hard for his money. I mean, it's hard working on your feet, an 8-hour shift at Safeway, and then you go stand at the bus stop and take the bus home and then walk home from the bus stop. So I want to make sure that that's protected for him. And then and I think for our family too, what was important, because I was a single parent for so long, and his brother didn't get all of my time that I would have liked to have been able to give him. I don't want his brother to be a burden for him, right? I want it to be so that Josh always is part of his life and part of decision making. He knows he'll always be there, but I want it to be a joy and not one more thing that adds to his stress and all of that. So for us, we're trying to create those supports here. And Ian's pretty clear he doesn't want to go live in California as much as he loves his brother. So we're doing everything to keep it sustainable here. And I really believe this is the best place in the US for him to be as an adult out there when we're not around. So, but yes, it's a complicated decision. And like I said, you've got Spin to hook up with. You can always chat with the ladies, and I'm sure they'll be putting some more information about this soon.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm the timekeeper, and we're now coming to an end of our time together. I'm going to turn it over to Amanda to do the special drawing.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. And thank you, Jackie, for the questions. I know we had some more questions in the chat. What we will do is type them all up. We'll send them to our speakers and ask them to answer. And then you can find them on our website, the spinconference.org website. Look under the Recipes for Success tab, and there you'll find these workshops as well as our Q&A. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on this beautiful Saturday morning. We really appreciate your time today. Thank you to our wonderful speakers and to our Spin advisors. We hope you have a wonderful day. Happy Father's Day to everyone, and aloha.
Aloha. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much.